For 64 years, I built what I thought was an unshakable life. A thriving real estate development company that I started from nothing in Vancouver, a loving marriage to Patricia that weathered 4 decades of ups and downs, and 2 children who I believed would carry forward the values I tried to instill in them. My name is Richard, and what I'm about to share with you shattered everything I thought I knew about family, trust, and the corrosive power of greed. This is the story of how my own son tried to kill me, and how I made sure justice was served. It started innocently enough, or so I thought at the time. Last autumn, I was diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Nothing immediately life-threatening, my cardiologist assured me, but it required careful medication management and lifestyle changes. I was prescribed a combination of blood thinners and beta blockers, pills I needed to take precisely on schedule. At 64, I wasn't ready to slow down, but I understood the importance of following doctor's orders. My son Marcus was the first to visit after my diagnosis. He's 38, works in marketing for a tech firm in downtown Vancouver, and has always presented himself as successful. He arrived at our house in Kerrisdale with his wife Nicole, both of them wearing concerned expressions that I found touching at the time. "Dad, we're so worried about you," Marcus said, embracing me in our living room. "Have you thought about updating your estate planning? Just to make sure everything's in order?" I should have paid more attention to the way Nicole's eyes darted around the room as he spoke, cataloging our belongings like she was taking inventory. But I was focused on my son's apparent concern. "The will is current, son. Your mother and I updated everything 5 years ago. You and your sister will be taken care of when the time comes." "But what about power of attorney?" he pressed. "If something happens suddenly, someone needs to be able to make medical and financial decisions." Patricia squeezed my hand. "We should think about that, Richard. He has a point." My daughter Jennifer came by the next evening. She's 35, a freelance graphic designer who chose creativity over corporate stability, and I've always admired her for following her own path. She lives in a small apartment in Kitsilano and stops by twice a week, usually bringing homemade soup or fresh bread from the market. "How are you really feeling, Dad?" she asked, helping me sort through some paperwork in my study. "Honestly, tired. The medication makes me foggy sometimes." She frowned, picking up one of my pill bottles. "Are you taking these exactly as prescribed?" "The dosing seems complicated. Your brother actually offered to help organize my medications. He set up a weekly pill organizer for me, made it easier." Something flickered across Jennifer's face. "Marcus did that? When?" "Few weeks ago." "Why?" "Nothing. Dad, you need to be careful. I know he's my brother, but he's been acting strange lately. Nicole mentioned they're having money problems." I waved her off. "Your brother is doing fine. He's just concerned about his old man." But her words stayed with me. Over the following weeks, I started noticing things. Small things that individually seemed meaningless, but together formed a troubling pattern. My computer password had been changed. Documents in my study had been moved. Bank statements I normally received were suddenly going missing, and I was feeling worse, not better, despite supposedly taking my medication faithfully. One evening, Marcus stopped by when Patricia was at her book club. He seemed nervous, pacing in my study while I pretended to doze in my reading chair. "Dad, I wanted to ask you something," he began. "That property development in Richmond, the one worth about $3 million, who's listed as the successor if you can't manage it?" I kept my eyes half closed. "The company board handles transitions." "Why?" "Just thinking ahead. Planning. Have you considered that maybe you should step back? Focus on your health? I could help manage things." "I'm not dead yet, Marcus." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Of course not, Dad. I just want to help." After he left, I sat in my study for a long time, Jennifer's warning echoing in my mind. The next morning, I made a decision that would save my life. I called a security company and had them install cameras throughout the house, small ones, hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames. I told Patricia it was for general security, which wasn't entirely a lie. "You're being paranoid, Richard," she said, but she didn't object. 3 days later, the cameras captured something that turned my blood cold. I was reviewing the footage on my laptop in the study, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing, when I saw Marcus enter the kitchen at 2 in the afternoon, a time when he knew I'd be at a doctor's appointment and Patricia would be volunteering at the hospital auxiliary. He went straight to the cupboard where I kept my medication organizer. He pulled out a small plastic bag from his jacket pocket, removed pills from my compartments, and replaced them with identical-looking tablets. Then he put the originals in the bag and pocketed it. The whole thing took less than 90 seconds. I watched the footage 3 times, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. My own son, my own flesh and blood, switching my medication. But with what and why? I forced myself to keep watching. Later that evening, when both Patricia and I were home, Marcus called. I could hear both sides of the conversation through the camera audio. "It's working," he said quietly, standing in our backyard where he thought he had privacy. "He's getting weaker every day. The doctor thinks it's just his condition progressing." A woman's voice, "Nicole. How much longer?" Dr. Chen said maybe 4 to 6 weeks if his heart keeps deteriorating at this rate. "The paperwork's ready. Once he's gone, the estate goes through probate, but the power of attorney I had him sign means I can start liquidating assets immediately." "What about Jennifer?" "She gets half, but half of something is better than all of nothing. Once Dad's gone and we've secured what we can, it won't matter." I sat frozen in my chair, the laptop screen blurring through tears. I didn't realize I was crying. My son wasn't just stealing from me, he was killing me. Slowly, methodically, with pills designed to accelerate my heart failure. And he was counting down the days until I died. The next morning I told Patricia I was going to my regular cardiologist appointment, but instead I drove to a private medical clinic in West Vancouver. I brought the pills from my organizer and explained my suspicions to a doctor I'd never met before, someone Marcus wouldn't know to contact. Dr. Sarah Kim was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes that turned hard as I explained the situation. She ran a comprehensive blood panel and had the pills analyzed. 2 days later, she called me with results that confirmed my worst fears. "Mr. Ashford, your blood contains significantly elevated levels of a medication called digoxin. It's a heart medication, but you're not prescribed it. In the doses you've been receiving, it would cause progressive heart failure. The pills your son substituted contain digoxin instead of your beta blockers. If you'd continued taking them for another month, you would likely have died of what appeared to be natural cardiac arrest." I listened to her explain the mechanics of how my son was murdering me, and something inside me hardened. The father in me wanted to confront him, to scream and ask why. But the businessman who'd built an empire from nothing understood something more important. I needed evidence, documentation, and a plan. "Dr. Kim, I need you to document everything. Blood tests, pill analysis, timeline. I'll need you to testify, if necessary." "Already done, Mr. Ashford. I've also reported this to the police as a suspected attempted murder. They'll want to speak with you." That evening, I called Jennifer and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop in Yaletown, far from home. When she arrived, I could see she knew something was wrong from my expression. "Dad, what is it?" I showed her the security footage on my phone, showed her the medical report, told her everything. I watched my daughter's face cycle through disbelief, horror, and finally rage. "That bastard," she whispered. "That absolute bastard. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure he goes to prison, but I need your help. And I need you to act completely normal around him." "Can you do that?" She wiped her eyes and nodded. "Tell me what you need." Over the next week, Jennifer and I worked with my lawyer, James Patterson, a shark in a 3-piece suit who'd handled my business deals for 20 years. We gathered evidence systematically. The security footage showed 3 separate occasions where Marcus had tampered with my medication. Dr. Kim provided comprehensive medical documentation. James hired a forensic accountant who discovered that Marcus had forged my signature on power of attorney documents 6 months earlier and had already transferred $500,000 from my business accounts to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. But the most damning evidence came from Marcus's burner phone, which Jennifer managed to photograph the number of when she saw it on his desk during a family dinner. James had connections with a private investigator who legally obtained call records showing months of communication between Marcus, Nicole, and a corrupt financial advisor named Derek Chen, who'd been helping them set up the theft. Patricia was the hardest conversation. I waited until we had all the evidence before sitting her down in our living room. Patty, I need you to listen to everything before you speak, because what I'm about to tell you will break your heart. I showed her everything, the videos, the medical reports, the financial crimes. I watched my wife of 40 years cry in a way I'd never seen before, mourning the son she thought she knew. How could he? She kept asking. How could he do this to you? To us? Greed, I said simply. And desperation. The private investigator found out Marcus has a gambling addiction. He owes over $200,000 to some very unpleasant people. He saw my heart condition as an opportunity. What about Nicole? She knew everything. She's as guilty as he is. Patricia's tears dried, replaced by something colder. What do? We let the police handle the criminal case. But first, we're changing the will. Everything goes to Jennifer and to you. Marcus gets nothing. Not $1. The next day, James drew up new estate documents. Everything was restructured into a trust with Patricia and Jennifer as beneficiaries. The company would be sold, with proceeds split between them. Marcus's name was removed from every document, every account, every potential inheritance. Meanwhile, I did something that made me feel sick but was necessary. I pretended to get worse. I took the safe medication Dr. Kim prescribed, but I acted weaker, more confused, more dependent. Marcus started visiting more frequently, his mask of concern growing thinner each time as he thought his plan was working. How are you feeling today, Dad? He'd ask, and I could hear the anticipation underneath. Tired, Son. So tired. I could see the satisfaction in his eyes. It took everything in me not to rage at him, but I knew I had to wait. The police were building their case, and Detective Morrison had made it clear they needed to catch Marcus in the act of tampering with the medication one more time to seal the criminal charges. 2 weeks after we'd discovered the truth, Marcus took the bait. I'd mentioned to him that I was running low on medication and needed to pick up my prescription, subtly letting him know when the house would be empty. Patricia, Jennifer, and I went to a movie, and Detective Morrison's team was ready with a warrant to search the house. The security cameras captured everything. Marcus entered with a key we'd never asked for him to have, went straight to my medication, and performed his deadly substitution once again. This time, when he pulled out the plastic bag, Detective Morrison and 2 officers walked in through the front door. I watched the footage later. The color drained from Marcus's face. What is this? What are you doing here? Marcus Ashford, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. They found the burner phone in his car, found the forged documents in his home office, found email conversations with Derek Chen detailing how they planned to drain my accounts while making it look like I was simply declining mentally. The court case took 6 months. Jennifer held my hand through every day of testimony. Patricia sat beside me, her face a mask of composed grief, mourning the son we thought we'd raised. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity, tried to blame his gambling addiction, tried to claim he never intended to kill me, only to incapacitate me. But the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution presented Dr. Kim's testimony about the digoxin poisoning. They showed the security footage of him tampering with my medication. They traced the stolen money. They played recordings of his phone conversations where he explicitly discussed how long I had left to live. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Nicole received 5 years for conspiracy and being an accessory to attempted murder. Derek Chen, the financial advisor, testified against them in exchange for immunity and lost his license to practice. I remember the moment the judge read the sentence. Marcus turned to look at me, and for just a second, I saw not the calculating killer he'd become, but the little boy I'd taught to ride a bike in Stanley Park. Then his face hardened, and he was led away in handcuffs. Patricia and I sold the company 3 months later. The sale price was better than expected, and we set up trust funds for any grandchildren Jennifer might have someday. We downsized from our large Kerrisdale house to a comfortable condo in Yaletown, close to Jennifer's apartment. I don't need all that space anymore, I told Jennifer over coffee one morning. And honestly, too many memories I'd rather not relive. She nodded, understanding. Are you and Mum okay? Really okay? We're healing. It's strange, you know. I thought losing Marcus to greed would destroy us, but in some ways it clarified what actually matters. Your mother and I have each other. We have you. That's enough. Last spring, Patricia, Jennifer, and I took a 3-month trip through Europe. We visited places I'd always been too busy to see, ate food I'd never taken time to enjoy, and slowly repaired the damage Marcus's betrayal had inflicted on our family. One evening in Rome, sitting at a cafe near the Trevi Fountain, Patricia took my hand. Do you ever think about him? I knew she meant Marcus. Every day. I think about where we went wrong, what signs we missed, whether there was something I could have done differently. And what do you conclude? That we gave him everything except the understanding that everything wasn't his to take. We failed to teach him that character matters more than wealth. But Patty, that failure was his to own, not ours. We loved him. We provided for him. The rest was his choice. Jennifer leaned over and kissed my cheek. You taught me everything that matters, Dad. Integrity, kindness, hard work. Marcus chose differently. That's on him. I'm 65 now, a year older and significantly wiser than when this nightmare began. My heart condition is managed with proper medication, carefully monitored by Dr. Kim. I walk every morning along the seawall, Patricia by my side, and I think about how close I came to losing everything that truly mattered. Marcus is eligible for parole in 6 years. I don't know if I'll ever speak to him again. Part of me hopes he uses his time in prison to understand the magnitude of what he tried to do. Another part of me knows that some things, once broken, can't be repaired. But here's what I learned through all of this. True wealth isn't measured in property developments or bank accounts. It's measured in the people who stand beside you when the world crumbles. It's measured in the daughter who dropped everything to help gather evidence against her own brother. It's measured in the wife who mourned beside you but never abandoned you. It's measured in mornings spent walking beside the water, in evenings sharing wine and laughter, in the simple, profound gift of being alive. My son tried to end my life for money that would have been his eventually anyway. In his greed and desperation, he lost everything that mattered. He lost his freedom, his family, his father. He traded years of his life for the fantasy of wealth he never even managed to enjoy. Meanwhile, I'm here, breathing, living, loving the people who deserve it. I sold the company, yes. I gave up the corner office and the meetings and the stress. And I've never been richer. Not despite losing those things, but because of it. If there's a lesson in all this darkness, it's simply this. Know who your real family is. Trust, but verify. And understand that the people who truly love you don't count down the days until you're gone. They cherish the days you're here. I learned the hard way that blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and that the worst betrayals come from those we trust most completely. But I also learned that surviving such a betrayal doesn't have to define you. It can refine you, showing you what and who truly matters. Every morning when I wake up beside Patricia, when I have breakfast with Jennifer, when I watch the sun rise over Vancouver's harbor, I'm grateful. Not for what I almost lost, but for what I gained in the losing. Clarity, perspective, freedom from caring about anything except what truly deserves my care. Marcus took my trust and tried to turn it into my death sentence. Instead, he gave me the greatest gift, though he never meant to. He showed me exactly how precious life is and exactly who deserves to share mine. That's worth more than any inheritance could ever be.